What if everything you believed about someone turned out to be a carefully guarded secret? When Emily, a hardworking single mother, stops to help a mysterious man in a wheelchair stranded on the street, she never expects her life to change forever. Drawn to his vulnerability and strength, she discovers layers of secrets. Alex is not just a man rebuilding his life after tragedy, but a millionaire hiding from his past. As their bond deepens, so do the doubts. Was their connection real, or was she just another test? In a world of hidden wealth, broken trust, and second chances, Emily must decide if love can truly overcome lies, or if some barriers are impossible to break. Get ready for a story of redemption, resilience, and a love tested by truth. Emily was exhausted. The workday had been no different from any other. Long hours answering phones, solving customer issues, and fixing spreadsheets for a company that, month after month, seemed less capable of providing a comfortable life for her and her son, Noah. She couldn't remember the last time she had felt any real relief. Between meetings and endless emails, her only constant thought was how to ensure Noah had a better life, even when exhaustion and frustration threatened to defeat her. The glass office door closed behind Emily as she walked into the parking lot, and the cold winter wind brushed against her skin, a reminder of everything she couldn't control. She glanced at her phone. 6:45 p.m. Noah would be at home, probably already sitting at the table, waiting for dinner. He always waited for her, his tireless mother, as if she were the only thing in the world that truly mattered. When she got into the car, a small sigh escaped her lips. She looked out the window as she drove, the city lights flickering and reflecting off the dirty glass. As she neared home, what seemed like an ordinary scene made her slow down almost involuntarily. On the sidewalk, a man in a wheelchair was struggling to fix a broken wheel. The sharp wind made the scene feel even lonelier, as if he were the only person in that desolate stretch of street. Emily looked at the man for a moment, and her instincts told her to stop the car. She didn't know why, but something about the situation called for action. Something inside her lit up. She didn't hesitate for long. She stepped out of the car and quickly approached the man. He was seated, his head bowed, his hands skillfully trying to fix the broken wheel. When he lifted his eyes, Emily saw something that made her pause for a second, a subtle, almost imperceptible pain that showed in the lines of his face. He wasn't just dealing with a broken wheelchair. There was a story there, something she couldn't yet identify. "Hi, can I help you with that?" she asked, her voice soft, but carrying a tone of confidence. She knew he wasn't expecting help, and that only made the situation more awkward. The man looked at her, and for a moment, surprise and pride mixed in his eyes. He didn't seem to want to accept help, but knew he had no choice. "No need, it's fine," he said. His voice was deep but held a note of reluctance. He seemed to want to push her away but didn't have the strength to deal with the problem alone. Emily didn't step back. Instead, she knelt beside him and picked up the wrench he was holding. "You're not getting rid of me that easily. Let me give you a hand, just to make sure you don't hurt yourself more." He looked at her for a second, his blue eyes appearing more tired than usual. Finally, he sighed, accepting her help with a weary nod. "All right then. I'm no good with tools." As she adjusted the wheel, Emily felt the intensity of the moment grow. There was something both vulnerable and strong about this man. He didn't want to appear weak, but the simple act of accepting her help was a reflection of something much larger. He wasn't used to depending on anyone. She noticed this as she watched him glance around, as if hoping things would go back to normal. "Do you live around here?" Emily asked, trying to start a conversation. "Anything to break the ice?" "Yeah, not too far," he replied, his expression guarded. "I prefer not to bother anyone. But since you showed up, I guess fate is giving me a hand." "Emily," she said, trying to ease the tension while still working on the wheelchair. "I'm Emily." "Alex," he replied, and the name seemed to carry weight. Just Alex. The conversation dragged on for a few more minutes, the two exchanging short words while Emily finished fixing the wheel. When she finally placed the wrench back in the bag, silence filled the moment. That's when Emily felt the need to look at him again. Really look at him. Something inside her wanted to know more. Something inside her wanted to understand why this lonely man seemed so familiar. Alex watched her as she stood up and began to walk away, his eyes fixed on her for a long moment. Then he said something that caught her off guard. I don't usually trust people, but you're different. I don't know what it is, but it's rare. Those words echoed in Emily's mind, as if an invisible thread between them had been pulled tight. It wasn't just compassion or the help she had offered. It was something deeper, something that connected them in an inexplicable way. She didn't know what it was, but as she stepped back, Emily felt that she couldn't leave without saying more. I don't usually do this, but if you ever need anything, let me know. He looked at her for a moment, and his eyes seemed softer. Maybe I will. Maybe. Before she could respond, Alex was already turning his face away, as if he himself was trying to understand why he had said that. Emily walked to her car, but as she got in and started the engine, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something important there, something beyond what seemed to be a simple encounter. She glanced back at the street one last time before driving away, her heart still pounding. There was something unexplainable in the air, a connection she couldn't define, but that was real and tangible. As she drove, a sense of curiosity consumed her. She felt that something was about to change, that this man, Alex, had a story to tell, a story that somehow would intertwine with hers, but that she would only discover later. In the days following her encounter with Alex, Emily couldn't get him out of her mind. While juggling work and caring for Noah, her thoughts often drifted back to that mysterious man in the wheelchair. There was something about him that stirred her, a mix of vulnerability and strength that was hard to ignore. Finally, she gave in to the impulse. Emily passed by the place where she had first seen him, and with a racing heart, found Alex sitting in front of the simple house he had said was his home. He looked at her in surprise, but soon offered a small smile. I didn't expect to see you around here, he said. I thought maybe you could use some help with something, Emily replied, trying to keep confidence in her voice. Alex hesitated for a moment before nodding. Actually, I do need help with a few things around here. If it's not too much to ask, Emily smiled. Of course, I came prepared. The first moments were filled with small tasks, organizing stacked books, fixing shelves, and cleaning what seemed like years of neglect. As they worked together, conversations flowed. Alex shared stories about his childhood, describing a simple life full of challenges. I grew up here, he said, pointing around the room. It was different back then, busier. Now it just feels so empty. Emily noticed the sadness in his voice. Maybe it's because you've spent so much time alone, she commented. But that can change. He looked at her with a different spark in his eyes. Maybe. Emily opened up about her struggles as a single mother, about sleepless nights and constant uncertainties. Alex listened intently, and something about the way he paid attention made Emily feel more comfortable. As the days passed, Emily and Alex began seeing each other more often. She brought Noah along on some visits, and the boy quickly grew fond of Alex. A memorable moment occurred when Alex helped Noah fix a broken toy. You're good with kids, Emily remarked. Alex gave a small smile. I guess I always wanted to be a dad, but some things don't happen the way we plan. Emily sensed a hidden pain in his words but chose not to press him. Instead, she let the silence fill the space. Noah, on the other hand, seemed enchanted by Alex. He laughed at his jokes and cuddled up close to him whenever he could. For Emily, seeing her son happy meant everything. One evening, as Emily was about to leave, Alex called out to her, Emily, I need to tell you something. I'm not sure I'm ready for this, but you need to know I'm not exactly who you think I am. Emily frowned. What do you mean? Alex shook his head. I can't explain just yet, but I promise I'll tell you everything when the time is right. She hesitated but saw sincerity in his eyes. All right, I trust you. As the days went by, Emily felt her heart opening more and more to Alex. He wasn't just a man in a wheelchair. He was kind, attentive, and carried a soul that seemed burdened by invisible weight. At the same time, she began noticing small details that intrigued her. The way he avoided talking about family, the moments he stared into the distance, lost in thought. These planted small seeds of doubt, yet the attraction between them continued to grow. Alex gently took her hand, and for a brief moment, their eyes locked intensely. Thank you, Emily, for all of this. You have no idea how much it means to me, he said, his voice filled with restrained emotion. Emily felt her heart race. You mean a lot to me too, Alex. But I still have so many questions. He smiled enigmatically. And I promise I'll answer them when the time is right. But when she looked at Alex, she noticed something in his eyes, a mix of hope and fear, and that made her question again what he was hiding. As she walked to her car, Emily felt like she was getting closer to something important, but also dangerous. She knew she needed to learn more about Alex, but she also feared what she might find. Noah was smiling, holding a repaired toy, and Emily felt warmth in her chest at the connection between them. But when she looked at Alex, she noticed something in his eyes, a mix of hope and fear, and that made her question again what he was hiding. Emily parked her car in front of Alex's modest home, her heart pounding as she stepped out. She had been there before, but something about this visit felt different. The last time she left, questions had lingered in her mind. Questions she hoped would be answered tonight. Alex greeted her at the door with a hesitant smile. I wasn't sure you'd come back, he admitted. Emily tilted her head and smiled. And miss out on getting to know more about you? Not a chance. He stepped aside, allowing her in. The house was as humble as she remembered. Minimal furniture, faded walls, and shelves lined with old books. Despite its simplicity, there was a warmth to it, as if it held secrets waiting to be uncovered. As they settled in the living room, Emily noticed a box of old photographs on the table. She reached for one, holding it up to examine. Who's this? She asked, pointing at a picture of a young Alex with an older man. Alex tensed for a moment before replying. My father. He passed away a few years ago. Emily hesitated, sensing the shift in his tone. I'm sorry. Were you too close? Alex's gaze dropped to the floor. Not exactly. He had expectations for me, ones I couldn't live up to. After the accident, things changed. He never really saw me the same way again. Emily reached out, placing a hand on his. I'm sure he loved you, even if he didn't know how to show it. For the first time, Alex's defenses seemed to lower. Maybe I just reminded him of everything that went wrong. Emily's curiosity grew as she observed how guarded Alex remained. There were gaps in his story, pieces that didn't quite fit. Why was he so secretive? What else was he hiding? Later, as she helped him organize some books, Emily stumbled upon a drawer filled with expensive watches and jewelry, items that seemed out of place in such a modest home. Alex, what's this? She asked, holding up one of the watches. He froze, his expression unreadable. They belong to my father. He left them to me. I don't really use them. Emily narrowed her eyes but didn't press further. She felt a knot of doubt forming in her stomach, but she brushed it aside, unwilling to ruin the fragile trust they had built. As the evening drew on, Alex opened up about another part of his life. He told Emily about a woman he had once loved but had lost touch with after his accident. I thought she'd stay, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper, but she didn't. I guess it's easier to leave than to stay and face the hard parts. Emily's heart ached for him. Not everyone runs. Some people stay, no matter how hard it gets. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the walls between them seemed to crumble. But just as quickly, Alex pulled back, retreating into himself once again. Emily left his home that night with mixed feelings. She felt closer to Alex than ever, but the lingering doubts refused to leave her mind. What was he hiding? And why did she feel like the truth could change everything? As she drove away, she glanced at her reflection in the rearview mirror. For the first time, she wondered if she was ready to uncover the secrets that Alex was so desperate to keep hidden. In the days following her visit, Emily couldn't shake the images her mind kept replaying. The luxurious objects hidden in Alex's house and the emotions he struggled to contain fueled a growing unease. Determined to understand who he really was, Emily decided to confront her doubts during her next visit. When she arrived, Alex seemed different. He was more pensive, as if he knew he could no longer keep all his secrets buried. He greeted her with a faint smile, but there was something in his eyes, a mixture of vulnerability and guilt. We need to talk, Alex said, stepping aside to let her in. Emily's heart quickened, but she stayed composed. I think so too. They sat on the couch, and Alex looked at the scattered photos on the table, as if searching for courage to begin. Finally, he picked up a picture of a smiling couple and handed it to Emily. "This was my mother. She died when I was a teenager," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "After that, my father changed. He became cold and distant. He wanted me to be perfect, to follow in his footsteps and take over the family business." Emily studied the picture. "You never talked about his business. What did he do?" Alex hesitated before answering. "Real estate, big projects, money, and a lot of power. But I never wanted that life. I wanted something different, simpler, and that drove us apart." Emily nodded, feeling the weight of his confession. "And the things I found, are they remnants of that life?" He smiled sadly. "In a way, yes. After the accident, I distanced myself even more from that world. Selling some of the belongings helped me get by. Others, I just couldn't let go. They're all I have left of who I was." Emily absorbed his words, but something still unsettled her. "Why didn't you tell me before? Why did you hide this?" Alex ran a hand through his hair, visibly frustrated. "Because I wanted you to see me for who I am now, not for who I was. I didn't want you to judge me or think I was trying to impress you with money or status." Emily felt a mix of empathy and hurt. "I don't care about who you were. I care about who you are now. But I can't ignore how you've avoided being honest with me. That hurts." Alex looked at her, and for the first time since they met, he seemed genuinely scared. "I'm sorry, Emily. I really am." As their conversation continued, Alex lowered his gaze and began to talk about a past relationship. "We were together for years," he said, his voice breaking under the weight of the memory. "After the accident, everything changed. I thought she'd stand by me, but instead she pulled away. First it was the pitying looks, then the silences. And one day she just didn't come back." Emily felt a pang in her chest. "That must have been devastating," she said softly. Alex nodded, his eyes glistening. "I spent months wondering what was wrong with me, if I was even worthy of love. I tried to convince myself it was for the best, that maybe she couldn't handle it, but deep down, I never stopped feeling rejected." Moved by the pain in his words, Emily leaned forward and took his hand. "You don't have to carry this alone. I see you, Alex, and you deserve to be loved exactly as you are." He gently squeezed her hand, as if holding on to the hope Emily represented. "I want to trust. I want to believe this can be different. But it's hard to let go of the past." Emily smiled, her eyes filled with emotion. "We don't need to have all the answers right now. We just need to keep trying. You don't need to prove anything to me," she said, "but you need to trust me. I'm here." He squeezed her hand again, as if grounding himself in her presence. "I want to trust. I want to believe this can be different." Alex finally revealed that he had inherited part of his father's fortune after his death. He described how he initially tried to manage the family business, but soon realized it consumed him. "I felt trapped in an image that wasn't mine," he confessed. "It was like I was living the life my father wanted for me, not my own." After the accident, Alex said he made a difficult decision to hide his true life for a while. "I wanted to know if people could like me for who I am, not for what I have. After I became paraplegic, I started noticing how differently people treated me, and it scared me. I needed to be sure that the connections I made were genuine." He explained that the modest house and simple belongings were part of this test. "It's not that I'm ashamed of being wealthy. I just wanted something real, someone who would see me beyond the money or the wheelchair. That's why I chose to live this way, to understand who truly cared about me." Emily listened intently, absorbing his words and the deeper meaning behind them. Despite the surprise, what touched her most was Alex's effort to be honest now. He wasn't just sharing a secret, he was opening his heart. When Emily left that night, she felt a mix of hope and apprehension. She knew she had taken an important step toward truly knowing Alex, but she also felt there were still more layers to uncover. As she drove home, his words echoed in her mind. She knew she was falling for him, but she also knew that trusting Alex would mean accepting the secrets he still kept. In the days following Alex's revelation, Emily couldn't shake the whirlwind of thoughts tormenting her. His words echoed in her mind, but at the same time, small doubts began to creep into her heart. Did she trust him, or was she being deceived? Determined to clear up her doubts, Emily decided to do something she never thought she would: dig deeper into Alex's past. Using the last name he had mentioned in his stories, she searched for information online, and it didn't take long for her to find articles about his family. Alex didn't just have money, he came from a lineage of influence and power. Photos showed luxurious events, and headlines highlighted his name before the accident. She froze. The humble man she thought she knew suddenly felt like a stranger. When they met again, Emily tried to hide her unease, but Alex noticed. "You seem different today." "What happened?" he asked, frowning. She hesitated for a moment before blurting out, "I looked you up, Alex. I saw everything. The photos, the events, the articles. Why weren't you completely honest with me from the start?" Alex stepped back as if he had been struck. "Emily, I already told you why I hid it. I needed to be sure you saw me for who I am, not for what I have. I didn't want money to create a barrier between us." Emily shook her head. "But don't you get it? This also makes me feel betrayed. I stood by your side because I thought I knew you. But now I wonder if this was all a test. Am I just another person you were testing?" Alex reached out for her, but she stepped back. "Emily, it's not like that. I never meant to hurt you. I needed to protect my heart." Emily felt tears welling up. "Maybe you should have trusted me from the start, just like I trusted you. I need time to think." She left, leaving Alex standing alone. He stood by the door, watching her walk away, feeling the weight of fear that he might lose her forever. In the days that followed, Alex was consumed by guilt and pain. He reread old messages from Emily, trying to find clues about how to win her back. The days dragged on, and every minute without her felt like an eternity. Meanwhile, Emily struggled with her own emotions. She loved Alex, but she couldn't ignore the weight of her doubts. Conversations with her best friend Sarah brought more questions than answers. "You need to decide if you can forgive him, because true love isn't about perfection, it's about accepting who the person really is," Sarah said. After days of reflection, Emily realized she needed to listen to her heart. She didn't want to lose Alex, but she also knew he would have to fight to regain her trust. She sent a short message: "We need to talk. I'm ready to hear you out." When Alex received the message, he felt both relief and deep fear. He knew this would be the decisive moment. Emily went to meet Alex with her heart pounding. She knew she loved this man, but she also knew love couldn't survive without trust. Alex was waiting for her at the door, and when their eyes met, there was hope and regret in his gaze. "I'll prove to you that this wasn't a test, Emily. It was real." "You're real to me," he said. Emily took a deep breath. "Then show me. Show me this is real." "Emily, I don't know where to start," he said, his voice a mix of nervousness and hope. She raised her hand to stop him. "Start from the beginning, Alex. No more hiding. I need to know who you really are." He nodded and led her inside. They sat on the couch, and Alex began to speak, carefully choosing his words. "After the accident, I felt destroyed. I didn't know who I was anymore, without my mobility, without my status. People looked at me differently, and I didn't know who I could trust. So I decided to disappear, at least for a while." He took a deep breath before continuing. "It wasn't to test you or anyone else. It was to test myself. I needed to know if I was still worthy of love and respect without the money and the image I had built. I chose this simple house because I wanted to see who would approach me for who I really am." Emily remained silent for a moment, absorbing his words. "And me? Did I pass your test?" Alex took her hand. "Emily, you weren't a test. You were a surprise. From the moment you helped me on the sidewalk, I knew you were different. I fell for you because of the way you treated me, like I was just a regular man, not a millionaire stuck in a wheelchair." Emily felt a mix of emotions and skepticism. "But why didn't you tell me sooner? I would have understood. Instead, you left me full of doubts." Alex lowered his head. I was scared. Scared of losing you. Scared of being judged. I'm not perfect, Emily. I made mistakes, but what I feel for you is real. I want to spend the rest of my life proving that to you. Tears rolled down Emily's face. I don't know if I can trust so easily again, Alex. Trust isn't something you rebuild overnight. He moved closer. I know, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to regain your trust. I won't give up on us. Emily felt warmth in her heart. Despite the doubts, she knew she didn't want to give up on him either. I'm not asking for perfection, Alex. I'm asking for honesty. If you can give me that, maybe we can start over. Alex held her hands firmly. Honesty, I promise. They embraced, and Emily felt that despite everything, there was hope. There was a road ahead, but both were willing to face it together. In the days following their decisive conversation, Emily and Alex began to rebuild their shaken trust. They met regularly, talking about their fears, dreams, and the future. Alex made a point of opening his heart, sharing painful memories and forgotten hopes. Emily, in turn, showed she was willing to move forward, but not without caution. One afternoon as they walked through the park, Alex looked at Emily with a serene smile. Do you think I'll ever just be seen as Alex and not the man in the wheelchair or the millionaire? Emily stopped and held his hands. To me, you've always just been Alex, and that's how I want the world to see you. We'll work on that together. Despite their emotional progress, a new challenge arose when Alex received an unexpected call from his lawyer. I need to talk to you about the assets you left behind. Some properties are at risk of being sold against your will. Alex felt a tightness in his chest. He knew that, sooner or later, he would have to face the world he had left behind. But how would this affect his relationship with Emily? He hesitated before telling her. When he finally revealed the situation, Emily surprised him. You don't have to face this alone. I'm here, and together we'll find a solution. The next day, Emily accompanied Alex to a meeting with the lawyer. As they discussed strategies to protect Alex's assets, Emily noticed how much he had changed. He was no longer the man trapped by fears and insecurities. Now he was strong, determined, and above all, transparent. Alex, on the other hand, felt grateful to have Emily by his side. Throughout the meeting, she supported him with encouraging words and a firm touch on his hand. For the first time in a long while, he didn't feel alone. That night, while having dinner together, Alex looked deeply into Emily's eyes. I want you to know that everything I've done was to protect what really matters to me. Now I see that you are the most important thing in my life. You brought light into my world in a way I never thought possible. Emily smiled, tears welling up in her eyes. I've learned so much from you too, Alex. I've learned that love is stronger than any doubt, and that together we can overcome anything. Alex held her hand. So let me do this right. Emily, I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life by your side. Emily felt her heart race. His words were everything she wanted to hear, but they also carried the weight of everything they had been through together. She looked into Alex's eyes and smiled, tears glistening. I love you, Alex, and I want that too. I want to be by your side every step of this journey, facing challenges and celebrating victories. Alex pulled her closer and hugged her tightly, as if, at that moment, everything had finally fallen into place. Thank you for not giving up on me. Emily caressed his face. We will never give up on each other. Over time, Emily and Alex continued strengthening their relationship. They learned to fully trust each other, and Emily saw in Alex not just a man who had overcome adversity, but also an incredible partner. Alex, in turn, no longer felt the need to hide who he was. He realized that his strength lay in accepting his story and embracing the future with Emily by his side. What about you? Do you believe true love can overcome secrets and insecurities? Can any disability really stand in the way of love? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any more emotional stories like this one. And if you enjoyed this video, check out the next one already available on our channel. You'll be even more surprised.